I still remember the night I planned to surprise my husband for our 5th wedding anniversary. Looking back now, 28 years later, I realize that evening changed everything I thought I knew about love, trust, and the people closest to us. It was a warm evening in late May, and I'd told Callum I had a gallery opening in Savannah that would keep me away overnight. I'm a commercial photographer, and back then I was just starting to make a name for myself in Charleston's art scene. Usually, I'm honest to a fault, but I wanted to do something special. 5 years felt like we were finally settling into our lives together. Callum had just made partner at his real estate development firm, and I'd landed my first major contract with a hotel chain. Everything seemed perfect. The opening was real, but it wasn't until the following week. I'd arranged for my assistant to cover it so I could come home early and set up a romantic evening. I'd hired a chef to prepare Callum's favorite meal, bought champagne, the whole works. I even planned to finally tell him I was ready to start trying for a baby, something we'd been discussing for months. Traffic from Savannah was lighter than expected, and I pulled into our driveway in the historic district just after 6. That's when I noticed Sienna's white Mercedes parked 2 blocks down. Sienna had been my best friend since college, my maid of honor, the sister I never had. She lived just 15 minutes away in Mount Pleasant, but her car being on our street wasn't unusual. She was an interior designer, and she and Callum had been working together on a project for his firm. I'd actually connected them professionally, proud that 2 of my favorite people were collaborating. I'd parked my car in our detached garage around the corner, something I always did to keep my expensive equipment secure. The house was a renovated historic home built in 1870, with the original carriage house converted to a garage. It meant my car wasn't visible from the main house. I grabbed my camera bag and let myself in through the back entrance, being quiet because I still wanted the surprise element. The house was dim, the evening light filtering through the old wavy glass windows. I could hear voices upstairs, in my office. Here's the thing about being a photographer. I'm particular about security. 3 months earlier, I'd installed a comprehensive camera system throughout the house after someone broke into my studio downtown and stole over $20,000 worth of equipment. I'd told Callum about the cameras at the entrances, but I hadn't mentioned the ones I'd placed in the office, the living room, and the master bedroom. They were small, discreet, meant to catch anyone who broke in. I monitored everything through an app on my phone. I was about to head upstairs when something made me pause. Maybe it was the tone of the voices. Maybe it was instinct. Instead of going up, I pulled out my phone and opened the camera app. The office camera had a clear view of my desk, where Callum sat with Sienna perched on the edge, papers spread between them. I tapped the live feed and turned up the volume on my wireless earbuds. Callum's voice came through clearly. "She'll be gone until tomorrow afternoon. We have time." "Are you absolutely certain about this?" Sienna asked. Her voice sounded strained. "Maeve is my best friend. We've known each other since we were 18. My hand tightened on my phone. Why were they talking about me? What did they have time for? "Sienna, we've been planning this for 8 months, Callum said, his voice taking on an edge I'd never heard before. 8 months of waiting, of pretending, of me playing the devoted husband while she obsesses over her camera and her art shows. I'm done pretending. The champagne bottle in my other hand suddenly felt impossibly heavy. "What about the insurance?" Sienna asked quietly. There was a pause. I watched through my phone as Callum stood and walked to the window, looking out over our garden. "The policy is solid," he said. $350,000 on the house, plus the business insurance on her equipment and studio. Another $200,000 life insurance. "We're talking over $500,000, Sienna. Plus, once she's gone, we can finally be together. No more sneaking around." I felt my knees go weak. I steadied myself against the kitchen counter, my heart hammering so hard I thought it might break through my ribs. My husband and my best friend were planning something terrible, and they were having an affair. "But how are you going to make it look accidental?" Sienna's voice trembled. Callum turned from the window, and I could see his face clearly on my phone screen. He looked calm, calculated. This was a man I didn't recognize. "The house is old," he said matter-of-factly. "Historical homes have electrical fires all the time. Faulty wiring, these old structures. She works late in her dark room with all those chemicals. An accident waiting to happen. I've already started mentioning to the neighbors how worried I am about the wiring, how I keep telling Maeve we need to get it checked. When? Sienna whispered. Next week. She's got that overnight shoot in Charlotte on Thursday. I'll be out of town supposedly, at a conference in Atlanta. The fire will start in her darkroom while she's home alone, working late like she always does. Probably won't even know what hit her. He paused. I've already rerouted the smoke detector circuits. They won't go off. I watched through my phone as Sienna stood and wrapped her arms around Callum. And then we can finally be together, she said. You and me, like it should have been from the start. Like it should have been, Callum agreed. He picked up a wine glass from my desk. To freedom, to us, to new beginnings. They clinked glasses and drank. Then Sienna laughed, actually laughed. A light tinkling sound I'd heard 1,000 times over dinners and brunches and late-night conversations. Except now it sounded like wind chimes in a horror movie. I stood frozen in my kitchen, holding a bottle of champagne I'd bought to celebrate 5 years of marriage, watching my husband and best friend toast to my death. Everything suddenly made terrible sense. The way Callum had insisted on increasing my life insurance last year, saying we needed to protect our future. The way he'd been so enthusiastic about me taking overnight assignments, encouraging me to build my business even when it meant time apart. The way Sienna had helped me set up my darkroom, making sure she knew exactly where I kept my chemicals, how I stored my equipment. They'd been planning this for months, carefully, methodically. I needed to think. I needed help. But who could I call? Would anyone even believe me? Then I remembered. My cousin Griffin. He was a fire investigator with the Charleston Fire Department, specializing in arson cases. If anyone would understand, would know what to do, it would be him. I backed out of the house silently, got in my car, and drove straight to Griffin's place in West Ashley. An hour later, I was sitting in his living room, showing him the security footage on my phone. His wife Ainsley sat next to me, her hand gripping mine so tightly it hurt. When the video finished with Callum and Sienna's toast, Griffin's jaw was clenched so hard I could see the muscles jumping. "That son of a bitch," he said quietly. "And Sienna? I never liked her, but this. Griffin, what do I do?" My voice finally broke. "Can we arrest them? Is this enough?" He shook his head slowly. "It's evidence of conspiracy, definitely. But a good lawyer could argue it was just talk, just a sick joke. We need them to actually attempt it. We need to catch them in the act." "Absolutely not," Ainsley said immediately. "You are not using Maeve as bait." "I'm not," Griffin said carefully. "But Maeve, you need to act completely normal for now. Don't let them know you know. We have a week before this overnight shoot in Charlotte, right?" I nodded, my mind racing. "Here's what we're going to do," Griffin continued, switching into investigator mode. "First, I'm going to make copies of this footage and secure it in 3 different locations. Second, we're going to get you a wire. Third, I'm going to inspect your house officially, document everything about that dark room and those smoke detectors. And fourth," his voice hardened, "we're going to catch them trying to burn down your house with you, supposedly in it." The next 6 days were torture. I had to act normal around Callum. Had to smile at breakfast, kiss him goodbye, discuss our days like nothing was wrong. Sienna called twice to make lunch plans, and I had to sit across from her at our favorite cafe, listening to her talk about a new client while knowing she was planning to help kill me. Every night, I secretly backed up more footage from the cameras. Callum and Sienna met twice more in my office, refining their plan. I learned that Sienna would be at a yoga retreat in Asheville, establishing her alibi, while Callum would be documented at his Atlanta conference. The fire was set to start at 10 p.m. Next Thursday, triggered by a delayed electrical short, Callum was rigging in my darkroom. Griffin worked with the fire marshal and police department, briefing them on the situation. They wired my house with additional cameras, added their own smoke detectors that Callum didn't know about, and positioned fire units nearby. The plan was to let Callum set everything up, then move in before the fire actually started. They also insisted I not actually be in the house. We arranged for a thermal dummy to be placed in my darkroom, something that would read as a heat signature. I would be safely down the street with Griffin and the tactical team. Thursday arrived. I'd supposedly left for Charlotte that morning, my car tracked by GPS heading north. In reality, I'd parked at a hotel near the airport and doubled back in Griffin's car. Callum had left for Atlanta, or so he claimed. His car was spotted heading south on I-95. By 8 p.m., I was sitting in an unmarked van 2 blocks from my house, wearing a wire, watching the camera feeds with Griffin and 3 police detectives. We could see everything: my darkroom, my office, the living room, the entrances. At 8:40, we saw Callum's car pull into the alley behind our carriage house. He'd circled back, just like Griffin predicted. "Here we go," Griffin muttered. Through the cameras, we watched Callum let himself into the house through the back door. He was wearing all black, leather gloves, a baseball cap pulled low. He moved quickly, confidently, heading straight for my darkroom. The wire I was wearing picked up his movements, his breathing. I watched on the monitor as he knelt by the electrical panel in the darkroom, working with tools he'd brought. He was installing something, a delayed trigger connected to the old wiring. My phone buzzed. A text from Sienna. "Thinking of you, babe. Hope the Charlotte shoot is going well. Wine when you get back?" I felt sick. Callum finished in the darkroom and moved through the house. We watched him disable the smoke detectors one by one, except he didn't know about the new ones Griffin's team had installed. Then he did something that made my blood run cold. He went to our bedroom and pulled out a shoebox from the back of our closet. Inside were letters, dozens of them, all addressed to Sienna in his handwriting. Love letters, going back years. Some were dated before our wedding. He sat on our bed and wrote one more, which the camera above our dresser captured clearly. "My darling Sienna, by the time you read this, we'll finally be free. Tonight marks the beginning of our real life together. I love you, always have, always will. See." He placed the letter in the box and returned it to the closet. Insurance, I realized. If anything went wrong, if he needed proof of their relationship, evidence of why he might have been driven to desperation. Callum left the house at 9:30. We let him go, tracking his car back toward I-95, where he'd head to Atlanta to establish his presence at the conference. At 9:45, the fire marshal gave the order: "Move in, disable the device, make the arrest." The tactical team entered my house, disabled Callum's electrical trigger, and preserved it as evidence. Meanwhile, other units stopped Callum's car 20 miles down I-95. I'll never forget watching through the one-way glass as they brought him into the interrogation room. He was so confident at first, insisting there must be some mistake. He was on his way to Atlanta. He hadn't been anywhere near Charleston. Then they showed him the footage. All of it. The planning sessions with Sienna. Tonight's break-in. The rigged electrical panel. The letter in the shoebox. I watched his face change as he realized he'd been caught. Watched the confidence drain away, replaced by something ugly and desperate. "I want a lawyer," he finally said. They arrested Sienna at her yoga retreat in Asheville. She'd actually gone, establishing her alibi, planning to be devastated when she got the news of my death. When the police showed up instead with an arrest warrant, witnesses said she fainted. The trial was intense. The media called it the Charleston fire plot. Our story was everywhere. Successful photographer, real estate developer husband, interior designer best friend, elaborate murder conspiracy. Court TV covered it gavel to gavel. The prosecution had everything. The security footage, the rigged electrical panel, the love letters, financial records showing Sienna's mounting debts and Callum's secret second phone with thousands of texts between them. They'd been having an affair for 3 years, since before my business really took off, since before Callum made partner. The defense tried to argue it was all fantasy, that they'd never intended to actually go through with it. But the rigged panel in my darkroom, the disabled smoke detectors, the insurance policies, the established alibis, it all painted a clear picture. The jury deliberated for 2 days. Callum got 20 years for attempted murder and conspiracy. Sienna got 15 for conspiracy and aiding and abetting. At sentencing, neither one looked at me. That was 28 years ago. Callum would be 64 now, released just last year. I have no idea where he is, and I don't care to know. Sienna got out 8 years ago. I heard through mutual acquaintances that she moved to Seattle, changed her name, started over. Good for her, I suppose. As for me, I sold the Charleston house before the trial ended. Couldn't stand to be in those rooms anymore, knowing what had been planned there. I moved to Santa Fe, New Mexico, where the light is different, the air is dry and clear, and nobody knew my story. I met my second husband, James, 5 years after the trial. He was a documentary filmmaker, a gentle soul who knew my history and loved me anyway. We had 18 beautiful years together before he died of cancer 3 years ago. We never had children. After everything that happened, I couldn't quite bring myself to trust that kind of vulnerability again. But I built a good life. My photography business flourished. I specialized in architectural photography, documenting old buildings with their histories and secrets. There's something satisfying about capturing truth in images, preserving what's real. I'm 62 now, and I still work, still create, still find beauty in unexpected places. I have friends here, a community of artists and makers. I have a small adobe house with a garden full of succulents and a studio where the light pours in every morning. I have peace. People sometimes ask if I have regrets about that night, if I wish I'd confronted Callum and Sienna differently, if maybe we could have worked things out. But I know the truth. Those security cameras saved my life. If I hadn't installed them, if I hadn't reviewed the footage, I would have died in a fire in my darkroom. They would have collected the insurance money, played the grieving widow and devastated best friend, and gotten away with it. Instead, I'm here. I'm alive. Every morning, I make my coffee, step out onto my portal, and watch the sun rise over the Sangre de Cristo Mountains. Every morning is a gift I wasn't supposed to have. So if you're listening to this story and something feels wrong in your gut, trust it. Install the cameras, save the messages, document everything, check your smoke detectors, look at the financial records. Pay attention to who benefits if you're gone. Because the people who promise to love you can sometimes be planning your end, and the only person who can truly save you is yourself. I learned that lesson on my 5th anniversary. It's a lesson that saved my life, and it's a lesson I'll carry with me for whatever years I have left.